This is George from High Tech Legion. Over the last couple of years, the NZXT Phantom has made its way to being a case of choice for many, many enthusiasts. The newest incarnation, the Phantom 630 that we see here, is the latest evolution of the Phantom case, full tower as you can see. And we have a gunmetal gray specimen here, also comes in matte black and white as well. Outside, very distinctive Phantom looks, the beveled nose, controls up top, 3-speed fan controller as well of course, and side window on the left-hand side of the case. But it's really inside that the Phantom 630 makes a huge evolutionary jump. The 630 goes to a modular design. The hard drive cages are modular as well as a couple of other components. This allows you to move your components around within the case to suit your needs. Match up your airflow. You've got great airflow to begin with 200mm fans front, side, and top, and a 140 on the rear. But you can actually move around the hard drive cages as well as a couple other components, like I say, to maximize the airflow. We'll take a look at that when we get inside. Also, you've got the opportunity to mount 240 or 280mm radiators up top, on the bottom, or in the front as an intake, and a 140mm in the back. Of course, you can run multiple 140s or 120s on top, in the front, or on the bottom as well. With all this going on, the 630 looks like it is going to be the new choice of enthusiasts. Moving our way around the exterior of the Phantom 630. First thing, notice beveled Phantom nose. You've got a nice large intake area right here with the grill. You do have dust cover behind there. Also, dust cover for the bottom easily slides out. Opening the front door, it's got the magnetic hold mechanism that NZXT has been using for quite some time. USB card reader right up top for SD cards, SDHC compatible as well. And easily removable covers, which are of course vented for better airflow. As you can see, you've got space for 4 optical disk drives up front, or of course components of your choice. Taking a look up top, you see 2 USB 2.0s, 2 USB 3.0s, and of course your front audio mic and headphone out. Over on the right side, you've got a 3-position fan controller. That's 30-watt fan controller. Your power light, LED light, power on and off, as well as your reset, and an on-off for the LED on the rear I/O panel. Going up, as you can see, you've got great ventilation for the 200mm fan inside and any optional fans you're going to put in. It is an open air case. Once again, filters up top, dust filters on the fans themselves, as well as in the empty fan space. So you do have quite a bit of air movement going through here. Over on the left panel of the case, as you can see, you've got a nice side window as well as space for a 200mm fan, which is included. Once again, done in the gunmetal gray that is done on the rest of the case. And as you can see from the side view, the gunmetal gray matches perfectly on each and every component. Around back, we find standard items as well as a couple of interesting things. I/O plate cut out, of course, your PCI expansion slots. These are not tool free. They actually do use a screw inside. Some nice ventilation in the back. Power supply cut out, of course, with standard mounting. But you do see a couple of LEDs poking up, which actually will illuminate your back I/O and PCI slots if you so desire. Other interesting thing, 140mm fan installed in the back and exhaust. You see this is slotted, and inside slots, if you want to use a 120mm, you can actually move the fan up and down. This is going to be important if you are mounting, say, a large radiator on the top, or if you're changing out the top fans to something you need a little room, you can move the fan down out of the way. Really nice touch there from NZXT. Looking over at the right side of the case, plain, solid panel. But one thing you do notice in this view is you've got a distinct slope for the top. The reason for this being, you've got some room under here to actually mount fans. If you're doing radiators, you can actually put your fans up in the upper area thanks to this slope. So, once again, great design feature. Finally, moving over to the bottom of the case, usually not very interesting, but this actually is. As you can see, you've got very, very large feet, which actually bring the Phantom up a couple of inches off the floor, so you get, and it's actually slided out the front as well, so you actually get some really fantastic airflow going in the bottom. Removable dust filters for both the power supply and, as you can see here, what is cut out for two fans, either two 120s, two 140s, 240 millimeter radiator, 280 millimeter radiator can go right down in here. Fans, of course, and the entire thing will mount inside under the dust cover. But you've got some great options for fan mounting, and very nice job here by NZXT getting it off the ground so that you do have good airflow under the case. Moving to the inside of the case, I'm actually going to start behind the motherboard tray. First off, side doors, steel doors, they're winged. They are not a slide off. Same gunmetal finish on the inside of the doors as the outside. Very, very nice looking inside, and as you can see, the entire inside done in the color of the case that you get, whether it be gunmetal, black, white. Your interior is going to be the same. First off, take a look. Got our fan controller, hookups right here. Not just a simple, one power plug it in. There is an actual fan controller here, 30 watt fan controller, which will take up to 10 fans. So moving on, see a cup right here. Very interestingly, two little mounts. These are for SSDs or 2.5-inch drives. Thumb screw takes them out, and as you can see, SSD will go right in, screw into place, and it will then slide right back in and mount up. One thing you should be noted, you have to use straight SATA cables. You cannot use a 90 degree SATA cable and on these. Taking a look, rubber grommets absolutely everywhere. Except for down the bottom, you've got a couple of open holes here, which are going to be for just kind of oddities and whatnot you might run into. Right next to the power supply, you've got a nice big opening, and a second one right here. Hard drive cages are over here. Your hard drives actually mount from the back, completely tool-free. Cage comes out, flexes open, hard drive goes in, pins lock the hard drive into place, and it goes right back into place. When you put it into place, of course. Next thing you notice, you've got thumb screws all the way down next to the hard drives. This is for the modular hard drive cages. Removing the thumb screws will loosen up the cages and allow them to be taken out. So you've got a really good looking setup back here, and as you can see, you've got a ton of room for cable routing. So nice things going on back here, good cable routing, easy to use hard drive cages, and really nice fan controller. Moving around to the front side of the motherboard tray and the main body of the case. Again, doors swing out. Again, gunmetal finish on the inside. Window, 200 millimeter fan mounted to the side panel, as you can see with the lead already attached. And moving inside, you see some really interesting stuff going on here. First off, the standoffs already installed in the motherboard tray for a full-size ATX. They are, of course, movable to micro ATX or extended ATX as well. Front I/O cabling comes right through the rubber grommeted area. Got a 140 millimeter fan in the back, as we said, 200 millimeter up front, or up top, and 200 millimeter up front as well. Single click locking mechanism for optical drives, and the modular hard drive cages as we had discussed. Very interesting top cages, 3 hard drives, second cage, 2 hard drives, and finally a 1 hard drive. Now these can be changed around to however you see fit. The 3 hard drive cage also has a mount for a 140 or 120 millimeter fan to give you a little extra airflow should you desire. It can also, as you see, be aimed within the case to wherever you like and tightened down so that you can get the airflow directed to where you need it. But I've gone ahead and taken out the thumb screws in the back, and the cages come right out. Now, as you can see, with the cages installed, you do have plenty of room for a 240 or 280 millimeter radiator up here. Not a thick radiator, however. It's going to have to be just standard. And coming out, they all come out, and as you can see, you've opened up this entire area for airflow in front of the 200 millimeter fan. Now, what good does this really do? Well, if you're going with something like 2 SSDs on the back of the motherboard and a single spinner, you can just take single bay, put it right there. You've now opened up all this airflow right here. Even if you're going to be going with more drives, you can still keep it open. You've now got room for 3 drives, and you've still got a nice open area right here to get intake into your system. Cool air coming in, unimpeded by the hard drives themselves, with the drives themselves still getting airflow. Like I say, any configuration you want, single 3, or if you prefer, move it up top. And hang it right there, fasten it in the back, and you're good to go. And once again, you've opened up some space. Now, down here you see on the bottom, you've got the plate in front of the power supply, which is also removable, and you can put a radiator on the floor should you desire. So, I mean, you've got just incredible options here as far as the modular hard drive cages. Getting a look behind the nose, first take out bottom dust filter, and nose is pressure fit. You'll find a handle down here. Give it a tug, and the entire nose comes off. As you can see, there's a removable dust filter for the 200mm up front, mounted in the nose, which is removable and can be washed. The backside of your 5¼ inch mounts, as you can see, nicely vented up front, as well as the slot for the SD card reader. And as you can see, you've got 200mm, obviously removable, and you can see the actual cutouts behind there for the 120 or 140, dual 120 or 140 with the associated mounting holes. Nice big empty space, as well as your SD card reader right there. Heading up top, top is also completely removable, pressure fit. Start at the front, and give it a tug. And off it comes, as you see. Very simple, very easy. You can see the 200mm mounted up top, room for a second 200, or as you see, all the spidering in here for 3 120s, 2 140s, 240mm rad, 280mm rad, or a second 200mm fan. All are going to mount up here without a problem. Also, you see all the controls stay up top. When you remove the top, it's modular. No need to worry about the wiring, anything of that nature. Your fan controller stays up here, all of your onboard controls and your front I/O stay on the case itself and are not part of the top. You don't have to contend with the wiring. It's very easy to take on and off. So now that we've got disassembly down to a frame, let's start with some assembly. First thing going in, going to be the power supply. Obviously we'll move these out of the way for the moment. And one of the nice things being here for larger power supplies, you do have 3 supports on each side rather than standard 2. I'm going with a power supply that happens to be 180mm, so it will actually take advantage of all 3 and sit real nicely on all of them, and we'll just screw into place. Next, I actually am going to remove the bottom plate. Even though I'm not going to be doing water coolers the final today, I am going to show you how radiators fit in the bottom. So we're going to get this out of the way. Also, I'm not going to be using bottom mount on the hard drive cage. So I'm going to be hanging one from the top to get the airflow going. So just 3 screws from the back, 2 screws in the front of the bottom, and this plate comes out. And you can see you've got open space here now with the cutouts for the radiator and fans. Next, we're going to seat the motherboard into place. Obviously, I/O plate will snap into place in the back first. And as I said, the standoffs are already installed, screws included, so we'll just move the cabling out of the way and place our motherboard in place, and 9 screws will hold it in. So with the power supply and motherboard mounted, let's take a look at some cooling options here. First, we've got a 240mm radiator here, and taking a look, we've got the option to go down the bottom, of course, and then hang the modular hard drive cage from the top so you've got plenty of clearance. Next option, up front, and that can be done with the bottom still in and all your hard drives stacked up. You do have enough room. You're going to have to leave the top hard drive cage out in order to get your cooling lines through. Of course, with an all-in-one cooler, most people are going to go up top, and of course you've got plenty of room up here to do a 240, a 280, or even a 360 up top. You got, as I say, plenty of room. Something to keep in mind, if you did want to go with a bottom mount, this is an all-in-one cooler, a Swiftech H220 to be exact, and does have what is considered longer cooling lines, some of the longest actually we've seen, and it would just make it to the CPU itself. Only problem is you're going to have a GPU here, so it would actually have to loop around. If you're going to do an all-in-one, it's not going to work on the bottom because your lines are not going to be long enough. But as you see, you've just got an incredible amount of flexibility as to where you can mount radiators. If you are using a custom loop, you can go all three places, plus do a 140 in the back if you so desire. The options are pretty much endless. You've got plenty of room to mount a reservoir or whatever you need to. Just really an incredibly flexible mounting option for liquid cooling. As I said, we're going to air on this build, so I've mounted up the Phanteks TC14 PE, which is a very, very large cooler, obviously. Stands about 165 millimeters and only comes about 5 millimeters from the side fan. You've got 170 millimeters of clearance with the side fan in on the side panel, and 210 millimeters with the side fan removed. So you've got a tremendous amount of room. As you can see, you've got a great amount of working room up top as well, even with a cooler this large installed. And looking around the rear of the case for the installation, as you can see, the motherboard tray cutout is absolutely huge. You can really work very, very easily with any of the back plates that come with any of the air coolers or AIO coolers. Any of the back plates that are going to come with any cooler on the market, you're going to have no trouble working with it. Next, we're going to mount a couple of SSDs behind the motherboard tray. Thumb screw comes out, mount slides up and out. SSD, line up, snap into place, align your screw holes, and it will screw down to the tray. Once the screws are tightened, just line it up, slide it down, lock it into place with the thumb screw. SSDs are mounted. Optical disk drive installation is completely tool-free. You simply snap open the drive catch, slip your drive through the front and into place. Line it up. And click into place, and the drive is secured into place. I'm only going to be using 2 hard drives in the build, so I'm going to use the 2 hard drive cage and slide it into place. Can be a little bit hard to line up. You do have to be able to actually see in there. And so into place, you can see this is going to be an entire open area for air coming in. With the cage inserted, you do want to replace the thumb screws that are holding it in. And right through the back of the motherboard tray into the cage. Installing the hard drives. First step, take the adapters out of the hard drive cage, just pinch, and they'll pull right out. And as you can see, they are flexible. 4 pins will line up with screw holes on the drive itself. So just flex it out, get it lined up, and insert the pins into the screw holes. One thing you do want to keep an eye on is that they are properly inserted. You might have a problem with the pin popping out of the grommet. We just had it start there. And if that is the case, and you can see it's all the way out on this one, make sure it is fully into the hole. Then you can slide it into place. And it will lock. completely tool-free, 2 hard drives in. Expansion card installation in the Phantom 630 is not tool-free. As we said, the knockouts themselves come out single screw on each. Phillips head. Pop it out, open up your expansion slots, and you can then fit in your expansion card. Snap it into place and screw it in to tighten it down. Now we're using a 3-slot Asus GTX here, a very, very large card, obviously. You do have 325 millimeters of space with the top hard drive cage in, with the hard drive cages mounted on the bottom, or if you're simply using SSDs mounted behind the motherboard tray, you have got a whopping 507 millimeters to the front. That's much larger than any GPU currently on the market, or anything foreseeable coming to market. So you've really got just a tremendous amount of space. And as you can see, you've got a really nice layout here. All that's left to just finish routing up the cables and put it back together, and we are good to go. And altogether, you wind up with a really nice looking build. Very clean looking build, as you can see. Also, just the finish on the 630 is fabulous, so you wind up just with a great looking build. But more importantly, as you can see, with this gun, the configurable airflow really is going to make a huge difference. Should make quite a bit of performance difference. Should get some phenomenal performance out of the case. Plenty of room up top, as you can see, with the 4 5.25-inch drives. We put in the two 3.5-inch hard drives with space underneath, obviously, for the other 2 hard drive cages to add another 3 if we like, or another one back here if we like, and that will also keep that airflow open. Plenty of room for a large video card. Gigantic CPU cooler, not a problem. Tons of options for liquid cooling. Extended power supplies, not a problem at all. Up to 200 millimeters. Won't even blink an eye. Just really, just incredible the versatility and configurability of the 630. So let's take a look at the benchmarks and see exactly how this translates into performance. Taking a look at the benchmarks, we're going to start out looking with using an air cooler, Fantex PHTC14PE. We're going to start out with the fans in the low position. As you can see here, every component really is showing absolutely fantastic temperatures. The airflow is absolutely fabulous in the 630, even with the fans in the low position. It's just got a great natural airflow, and that open top allows heat to dissipate out. Taking a look, especially the CPU at 4.6 gigahertz tops out at 69 degrees, which is really just phenomenal. Especially for a case that is near silent with those fans in the low position. Also, the GPU topping out at 65 degrees on that GTX 680. Also, great temperature. You've got that big side fan really doing its job. One of the concerns I had was the SSDs behind the motherboard. And you take a look and it gets up to 34 degrees. You've actually got some airflow behind the motherboard keeping those SSDs cool. Bumping the fans up to the medium speed, you see we get a little bit of a drop in all the temperatures all around. A couple degrees off the GPU, 3 degrees off the CPU at 4.6 gigahertz when it is loaded up, and a couple of degrees off stock. Also, the SSDs did drop a degree as well. Motherboard temps, I mean 28 degrees at idle. It's just the ambient temps inside the case are just fabulous. Now also, the 630 stays very, very quiet at medium fan speed. It does not make a whole lot of noise at medium speed at all. Bumping up to the high fan speeds, you see you get a little bit of a gain, 1 degree each on the GPU and CPU, the overclock CPU I should say. Stock CPU stays basically the same, as does the motherboard and the drives when you go up to high. Now you will hear the case with the fans in the high position, there's no question about that. You've got a tremendous amount of airflow and you are going to hear it a bit. The difference between the medium and high is very negligible temperature wise, and in most cases is not going to be worth the small performance gain, but it is there if you do need it. And lastly, we did install SwiftTech H220 liquid cooler in the top position with the fans in an intake, and as we see,
everything is as expected. What we're really looking for here, first off, the CPU temps are exactly where we expect them to be. With the fans as an intake, it's not going to be greatly affected by the fans of the case, of course, and it is running exactly where we expected it to be. What we did want to take a look at were the other component temps. Make sure that the warm air blowing in wasn't going to affect them, and it did not. The natural airflow of the 630 really did a great job of taking that warm air, just getting it right out of the equation and not affecting the other components in the system.
All in all, with the Phantom 630, NZXT has truly outdone themselves. It's an absolutely gorgeous case in absolutely every respect. Beautiful on the outside, incredible to work with on the inside, and the flexibility is simply unparalleled. The airflow was absolutely amazing on the case, as you could see in the benchmarks results. I'm sure some people were surprised by the benchmarks in that the air cooler was basically right on par with the high-end AIO SwiftTech. Reason for that being, high airflow is going to benefit an air cooler more than it is going to benefit an AIO liquid cooler, which is going to give you, more performance from the air cooler than you would normally expect. And with the tremendous airflow we saw with the 630, that was the case. As we saw in every component, everything ran absolutely cool. Now, when you do have high airflow, you are going to get a bit of noise associated, and make no mistake, the 630, when it's on high, is going to be audible, but on medium and low, it's a very quiet case, and still produces tremendous temperatures all around. So, the 630 really looks poised to be the enthusiast choice as far as a case, and is a phenomenal case from NZXT.